everybody, it's Greg here again, and this is Renaissance Fencing tutorial number 3, and today we're going to be talking about making cuts with the rapier according to Grassi's late 16th century fencing system. First of all, a couple of introductory notes. If you live in a modern flat or house like me, with a low ceiling and light shades and furniture nearby, then a sword like this, a 16th century sword, is going to be too big to make cuts with. Don't worry, you can easily use a smaller object to practice all of the principles I'm going to explain today. Okay, if you do have the space, it's good to use a training weapon like a sword or an appropriately sized stick or staff, so you get more of a workout, but you can practice all of the principles with smaller stuff. So I'm going to be demonstrating things using my trusty dagger, but you can use a short stick or baton like this. It's easily good enough. Okay, next thing I want to talk about before we start is some terminology. In Italian historical fencing treatises, cuts are usually referred to as colpi, which is blows or strikes with the sword, but this is a very general term. When they talk about specific attacks, they actually quantify or qualify the cuts, define them with specific names according to the angle of the cut. Okay, so there are in principle two angles which appear in Grassi's treatise. There are the fendente blows, which are downwards descending blows, steeply diagonal blows. Fendente means cleaving, so cleaving blows literally, but diagonal ones is a better way of thinking about them. There are also horizontal cuts like this, where the blade rotates acrosswise in front of you, and these are called tondo cuts, meaning turning cuts. These two types of cuts are then subclassified according to which side of your body they're coming from. So if they're coming from your lead side and right-handed, so from right to left, these are mandriti, which is basically forehand cuts. Okay. And the ones going the opposite direction are riversi, or sometimes man riversi, so reversed or backhand cuts. Okay, so we've got 4 cuts basically that we can practice. So we've got a fendente mandrito, tondo mandrito, fendente riverso, and the tondo riverso. Okay, these 4 directions. And these are the only cuts which are described and used in Grassi's rapier system. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to assume my Grassi basic guard posture, okay, with the feet like so, the lead legs a little bit forwards. My body is half profiled, so my lead shoulder is further forwards than my off shoulder. The off hand just held near the chest to aid in balance later, and her sword held in a guard posture. I'll use low ward with the weapon held down outside the thigh. So the mechanical components of making a good cut in this are basically threefold. First of all, we need to raise the hand so it's suitably high in order to impart force to the blow. Okay, this is explicitly stated in the treatise that it's necessary to raise the hand to make a cut. So to at or above shoulder height, this would be about right. Second thing is, just like with the thrusts, the mechanics of the body are a little rotation of the torso to support the action. Okay, so the hand is raised and then guides the edge of the blade towards the target, and the torso turns in order to control and impart force to the blow. And the third component is you're trying to cut through or across the target to make a kind of slicing attack rather than a chopping attack. And this is because, according to the treatise, the swords don't cut effectively just with a strike. This last thing is really important. In modern sports fencing, people play for points to tap each other with the edge of the blade. Even a strong strike, or wallop if you prefer, with the edge of a rapier-like sword actually probably won't do that much damage to somebody wearing thick clothes. Wouldn't penetrate armor, of course, and even if you hit somebody in bare skin, might not do that much damage. But a slicing blow, so-called draw cut, will really cut into the target, just like when you're cutting bread or tomatoes or whatever in your own kitchen. So bear that in mind. So the mechanics, without thinking about footwork, first of all, we raise the hand, we throw the edge of the sword towards the target, we turn the torso, and we cut through or over the surface of the target. And you can use the offhand just to aid your balance. Okay, so this is a fendente mandrito blow, which I'm just going to show repetitively as an example. So raise the hand, throw the edge, rotate the torso, cut through. And we're looking for this nice fluid motion. Okay, so there's no jerky movements, and I'm not locking out the elbow, I'm not twisting the wrist into awkward angles, I'm not throwing my body forwards in an uncontrolled way. So it's nice and fluid. Okay, so once you have mastered the mechanics of the arm and the upper torso rotation, you're going to add in a step in order to elongate the attack. And of course, in the Grassi system, every action of the sword is, under normal circumstances, accompanied by one step with one foot. So to start with, we're just going to make a similar step to the stoccata attack. We're going to extend the lead foot forwards by roughly 1 foot length. So that's a type of accrescimento, or increasing step, as it's known. So we raise the hand, we throw the blade forwards, we step and rotate with the body, cutting through the target, and then come back to guard. So remember, like with the thrust, the action is led by the weapon, the foot follows to support it. So raise the hand, throw the blade, step and rotate. When throwing cuts like this, because there is a lateral angulated component to the direction of the weapon, there is a little bit of a tendency to sway from side to side and possibly lose your balance if you're throwing a really fast cut. To aid the lateral stability, you can angulate the lead foot outwards by up to 45 degrees so that your toes are providing a little bit more balance to the side. You can see this in diagrams in other treatises such as that of Achille Marozzo from the 1530s. But if you can balance with the toes going straight ahead towards the target, that is also good. Do not curl the foot and the knee in. This is really bad for the joints, okay? So toes straight forwards or angled slightly outwards. That's forwards, that's outwards. So that's how to throw a fendente mandrito cut. You can also throw the tondo mandrito, which is a lateral, a horizontal cut. Okay, this can target the head or the legs or either of the arms. And then the other ones from the other side, we raise the hand up the other way. So that's a fendente riverso. And then the tondo reverso. Okay, so I'll pause there from the actions for a moment just to make a brief comment about targets. In De Grassi's treatise, cuts are always aimed at the head or the legs, and they may be aimed at the arms as well. They are never targeted at the body. Rapier blades are probably not good enough cutting blades to get through the sort of thick clothing that people wore on a day-to-day basis of the 16th century. And if people were wearing body armor at all, the sword would basically be useless at cutting through that. The limbs were generally exposed, and of course the face would be exposed. So cuts are aimed at the vulnerable targets. Try and bear that in mind when you're aiming with your blows. So the tondo blows might be across the face, the fendente blows down through the head. The tondo blows could be low as well, aimed at the legs. All right, so once you've got the hang of the mechanics, you can try and get into a bit of a rhythm. Remembering to keep the movements very fluid, cutting and returning to guard. And mix up the cut lines. So maybe fendente mandrito, back to guard. Tondo reverso, back to guard. Tondo mandrito. And all of these cuts are being delivered with the true edge. That's the front edge of the sword. Okay, and then you can add in cuts with the back leg moving forwards in a full step, which may be a straight step or a slope step angulated to one side. So that would look something like this. Raise the hand, slope step. Raise the hand, slope step. Raise the hand, slope step. Raise the hand. Okay, so then you can mix it up. You've got 4 cuts to play with and 2 steps. All the time looking for a fluid movement and using the offhand to help balance. Okay, and that's it basically. That's how to do the cuts in the Grassi system. Just a brief tactical note, these are large movements, okay? 2 things to note about that. First of all, these are necessary. De Grassi is explicit in his treatise. Cuts which don't make these really big full actions would not, in his opinion, be effective in combat, okay? Second thing is that he's also very well aware that this is a large action. In fencing theory terms, it's a due tempi action, a 2-time or double time action, 1, 2, which means your opponent has an opportunity to react in between the 2 movements. 1, and then they can be doing something like moving away or hitting you with a stop thrust before you can deliver the second attack. So these are risky moves to do as an opening action in rapier fencing. But if your hand has ended up in this high position, for example, as a result of a parry, then this is a very powerful riposte action to make. So the cuts are not useless by any means. You may use them as opening attacks to try and overwhelm a timid opponent, for example. But tactically, they're probably better used as ripostes. Okay, so that's as much as I'm going to say about cuts. I just want to finish up tonight with a brief tip or piece of advice, if you like. If you want to try and put together a little training routine for yourself, tutorials 1, 2 and 3 can easily be slotted together to make something you can do repetitively by yourself in your house, even if you're not a particularly advanced fencer. Okay, so the routine would be good for beginners, also good to maintain skills and practice for more experienced fencers. So I'd recommend something like 5 minutes of loose stretches to warm up, 5 minutes of conditioning exercises from our tutorial video 1, 5 minutes of practice of the stoccata thrust from our tutorial video 2, and then 5 minutes of repetitive cutting practice from this tutorial video 3. And that'll give you something like a 20-minute routine, which if you approach it in an energetic way, it can be a nice little workout just to keep you limber, keep you exercised, and keep your fencing skills up to scratch if you're stuck indoors. In the next tutorial video, we'll start to look at some more advanced concepts, some tactical concepts, and more mobile actions. But for now, that's all. See you next time.